Imagine for a moment that you wake up tomorrow and cannot say "I love you" to the most important person in your life, not because you don't feel it, but because those words simply don't exist. There's no "I love you," no "I miss you," no "you're special to me." Nothing. Just silence where words should be. This isn't a nightmare, folks. This was reality 40,000 years ago, when our ancestors lived in caves and fought daily for survival. But here's the amazing part. They loved. They loved with an intensity that we, with all our pretty words and poems, can hardly imagine. How is it possible to love without words? How do you tell someone they mean everything to you when you have no way to express it? This is the most beautiful story you've ever been told. How our Stone Age ancestors experienced love in the purest and most genuine way in human history. Get ready to discover that true love doesn't need words. It needs something much more powerful, actions that speak for themselves. And I assure you that by the time you finish listening to this story, you're going to see love in an entirely different way. 40,000 years ago, the world was a completely different place. There were no cities, no written language, not even a complex language like we have today. Our ancestors lived in small groups, fighting every day against the brutal forces of nature. Scientists have studied thousands of archaeological sites and have found something fascinating. Even though they couldn't say "I love you," they expressed love in ways we've completely lost. In the caves of France, Spain, and other locations, we find evidence of couples who lived together, families who took care of each other, and communities that protected their most vulnerable members. Imagine how hard life was back then. Men had to go out hunting giant animals with stone spears. Women gathered plants, cared for children, and kept the sacred fire alive. Death was around every corner. A wild animal, an illness, extreme cold, lack of food. In that dangerous world, love wasn't a luxury. It was an absolute necessity for survival. Without love, without mutual care, without protection between partners, you simply died. Love was literally the difference between life and death. But here's the most incredible part. Archaeological evidence shows us that our ancestors didn't just survive, they formed some of the strongest bonds that have ever existed. Because when you can't say "I love you," you have to show it every second of every day. Is your mind blown by this story? If you want to keep uncovering humanity's most fascinating secrets, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. I promise each video will amaze you. How did you tell someone you liked them when there were no words to express it? Our ancestors developed courtship rituals that were 1,000 times more romantic than anything we see today. For a Stone Age man, demonstrating love meant bringing home the biggest and hardest animal to hunt. It wasn't bragging, it was saying, "Look, I can provide for you and our future children, even if it risks my life." Imagine returning to the cave carrying a mammoth you hunted, just to impress that special woman. Women also had their ways of showing interest. They made beautiful ornaments from shells, shiny stones, and polished bones. They spent hours crafting necklaces and bracelets that they gifted to the men they liked. These gifts weren't just pretty, they were messages saying, "I consider you special. You deserve the best I can create." The courtship rituals included dances around the fire, body painting with special colors, and competitions among men to show who was the strongest and most skilled. But it wasn't just about brute strength. They also competed in intelligence. Who could make the best tools? Who knew the best hunting spots? Who had the best survival techniques? Cave paintings show scenes from these rituals. Men and women dancing together, hunters offering their catches to the women, whole families participating in ceremonies. They were like primitive weddings, but without churches or documents, just the acknowledgement of the whole tribe. The most beautiful part of all this was that courtship never ended. A Stone Age man had to prove his love every day of his life. It wasn't enough to win once, he had to keep winning forever. Each day was a new opportunity to show he was worthy of his partner's love. And here's something that should make us quite sad. They, without words, were more romantic than we are with all our poems and love songs. When a man and a woman from the Stone Age decided to be together, it wasn't just a romantic decision. It was a pact of survival, a life-or-death agreement that bonded them forever. Choosing a partner wasn't casual. Men looked for women who were expert gatherers, who knew medicinal plants, who would be good mothers, and who had the mental resilience to endure hardships. Women sought men who were skilled hunters, brave protectors, and intelligent enough to lead through tough times. But once they were chosen, something magical happened. They became the perfect team, each covering the weaknesses of the other. The man would go out hunting while the woman protected the cave and looked after the children. When the man returned injured, the woman would heal him with medicinal plants. When the woman was pregnant, the man worked twice as hard to feed the family. Fidelity in the Stone Age was absolute, not out of moral rules, but out of pure survival. Abandoning your partner meant condemning your entire family to death. Children needed both parents to survive, and adults needed one another to face daily dangers. The union rituals were simple but profound. The couple shared food from the same plate, painted each other with special colors, and exchanged tools they had made with their own hands. The entire tribe participated in the ceremony because everyone understood that a new couple meant greater strength for the group. The most beautiful part was how they took care of each other. When one fell ill, the other would stay by their side. If one died, the other often succumbed to grief soon after. Archaeologists have found graves where couples are buried together, embracing as if their love had been stronger than death. Can you grasp the depth of love in those times? If this story is touching your heart, share it with someone special and don't forget to like it. True love deserves to be shared. If you thought romantic love was intense in prehistoric times, wait until you hear about the love parents had for their children. This was love in its purest, most untamed form, without limits or conditions. Stone Age mothers were true warriors of love. They carried their babies for days as the tribe moved from one place to another. They nursed them for years, not just months. They would sleep with their babies close to their bodies to keep them warm during the chilly nights. And when there was danger, they were willing to fight lions and bears to protect their young. Fathers played an incredible role too. From the moment their children could walk, they taught them everything they knew about survival: how to start a fire, how to hunt, how to recognize poisonous plants, how to fend off predators. But it wasn't just about teaching. It was pure, quality time. Fathers spent countless hours with their children, not only imparting knowledge, but also love and trust. Something remarkable that fossils show is that Stone Age parents cared for their disabled children with a dedication that should inspire us. They have discovered skeletons of children with deformities who lived many years, meaning their parents cared for them day and night, carrying them, feeding them, protecting them, regardless of the cost. Birth rituals were celebrations that involved the entire tribe. When a baby was born, it wasn't just a child of a couple, it was the child of the whole community. All the adults became protective aunts and uncles. Grandparents served as living libraries, sharing stories and teaching ancestral wisdom. Education was love in action. Kids learned by seeing, touching, and experiencing. If a child got hurt while learning to hunt, the father wouldn't scold them. Instead, he would console them and teach them how to do better next time. It was education with infinite patience, as they knew their children's survival depended on learning well. Can you imagine how different the world would be if parents today loved their children with that kind of intensity and devotion? How do you think humanity would change if we returned to that kind of unconditional love? In a world without words, our ancestors became masters of silent communication. Every gesture, every glance, every action was a way of saying, "I love you," without the need for words. Body language was their language of love. A gentle touch on the face after a hard day, a hug that lasted several minutes, sleeping curled up to provide warmth and protection, walking hand in hand while foraging for food. These simple gestures were more powerful than any love declaration we could imagine. Gifts had deep meaning. A man might spend days crafting the perfect tool for his partner, polishing every detail until it was flawless. A woman might walk miles to find the most beautiful flowers and create a unique necklace for her partner. These gifts weren't bought. They were created with love, time, and dedication. Caring for someone during sickness was perhaps the purest expression of love. When someone fell ill, their partner wouldn't leave their side. They would provide water with their own hands, bring the best food, apply medicinal plants, and provide body heat during fevers. It was as if to say, "I won't abandon you, we're going to fight this together." Sharing food was sacred. In times of scarcity, when there was barely enough food for one person, couples would divide even the last morsel. Parents would go without eating so that their children could have food. It was love translated into nutrition, into life shared. The earliest forms of art were expressions of love. Cave paintings depict families together, couples holding hands, mothers carrying babies. They painted not just hunting animals but love itself. They created music with bones and stones, dances that told stories of loving couples, wordless songs that conveyed deep feelings. Territory was also an expression of love. Men marked and defended not only their space, but their family's space. It was like saying, "This place is sacred because it's where the people I love live." They defended their cave, their water source, their hunting ground, not for territory, but out of love. Isn't it incredible how they could express so much love without saying a single word? If you're enjoying this story, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. We need to reclaim these authentic ways of showing love. A death in the Stone Age wasn't just the end of life. It was the ultimate test of how deep love between people ran. Funerary rituals show us that love was stronger than death itself. When a loved one died, the family didn't just grieve. They lived their mourning fully. They would cut their hair, paint their faces with ashes, and go days without eating or drinking. It was as though a part of them had died too. Archaeologists have found evidence of people who died shortly after losing their partner, literally of a broken heart. Stone Age tombs are monuments to eternal love. Couples were buried embracing, their hands intertwined, as if they were simply sleeping together. Children were buried with their toys and necklaces made by their mothers. Adults were buried with the tools they had made for their loved ones. Something that should move us deeply is how they cared for their dead. They washed the bodies with clean water, dressed them in the finest skins and covered them with flowers and aromatic plants. It wasn't just hygiene, it was a final act of love. It was as if to say, "I will care for you until the very last moment, even after you're gone." Funeral offerings were gifts of eternal love. They placed the deceased's favorite food, their most used tools, and their beloved jewelry in the graves. It was like preparing everything they would need in the afterlife. Even in death, they continued to care for their loved ones. The rituals of remembrance were beautiful. They told the stories of the deceased around the fire, recreating their feats and mimicking their characteristic gestures. It was like keeping the person alive through shared memories. They didn't have photographs, but they had something better. Living memories passed down through generations. The continuity of love was evident in how widows and widowers continued to speak with their deceased partners. They visited the graves, brought them food, and shared what happened during the day. It was as if their love was so strong that not even death could break it. Have you ever wondered if your love for someone would be strong enough to survive death? How would you honor the people you love when they are no longer with you? When we look back at our ancestors from the Stone Age, we realize we have lost something fundamental about love. They teach us that true love doesn't need sweet words. It needs consistent actions. In our modern world, we say, "I love you," but don't demonstrate it. We send romantic texts but fail to care for our partners when they're sick. We buy expensive gifts but don't invest quality time. We promise eternal love but divorce when things get tough. Our ancestors teach us that genuine love is daily work. It's getting up each day and choosing the same person over and over. It's caring for, protecting, and sacrificing for one another without expecting anything in return. It's making the other person your priority, even when it means giving up your own comforts. The simplicity of primitive love is something we should reclaim. We don't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. We need consistency, dedication, and real presence. A genuine hug is worth more than 1,000 empty words. A touch in a difficult moment is more powerful than any poem. They also teach us about the importance of community in love. Love wasn't just between couples. It was among families, tribes, and generations. They cared for the elderly, protected the children, and supported young couples. It was a network of love, community love, that strengthened everyone. The most important lesson is that love requires courage. Our ancestors risked their lives for love every day. We are afraid to be vulnerable, to give ourselves completely, to depend on another person. But true love requires that kind of bravery. Maybe it's time we return to loving like our ancestors did, with fewer words and more actions, with fewer promises and more deeds, with less drama and more real dedication. Because at the end of the day, the love that lasts isn't the one that is said, but the one that is lived every day. If this story changed your perspective on love, share it with the most important person in your life. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more transformative stories. And remember, you don't need words to love. You just need the courage to show it every day. The next time you want to say I love you, show it instead. Because our ancestors taught us that true love isn't just spoken, it's lived.